My name is Yulia Miller, and I'm 42 years old. Up until last year, I worked at a cosmetics company, but I quit my job after my mother-in-law got injured. I started living with her to take care of her, and now I spend all day every day by her side. My husband, Thomas, works as a salesperson for a major pharmaceutical company, but he doesn't come home too late. Still, I'm the one who takes care of my mother-in-law all by myself every day. However, she has been cold towards me since we got married. When we first met for our marriage introduction, she said sternly, "You seem quiet. Can you really keep a household running like that?" From that first impression, I've had a hard time dealing with my mother-in-law and tried to interact with her as little as possible after getting married. So, when Thomas asked me to take care of his mom, I almost cried. "Quit your job and dedicate yourself to taking care of my mom."
No way! What do you think my job is?
Please. I'll help out after work and on weekends. Help out, huh? After being asked repeatedly by my husband, I eventually gave in. I gave up my career to spend every day just for my mother-in-law. Sorry, I have an unavoidable business dinner tomorrow, so I'll be home late. Again? You've had a lot of those lately, haven't you? Yeah. My bad feeling was confirmed, and Thomas started coming home late more frequently, finding various reasons. Even though he used to not participate in company dinners or parties, he suddenly started going, and sometimes came home in the middle of the night. Furthermore, he would silently go out somewhere on weekends. He said it was going to be different at first. It's just me in the end. I became increasingly frustrated with my husband. Yet, it would have been different if my mother-in-law had even once thanked me, but she only cursed, "To be taken care of by you." Moreover, it seems she was complaining about me to my husband.
Hey, don't make mom do things she hates.
Things she hates?
You forced her to walk, didn't you? Are you talking about the exercise? No. The doctor said to do it every day at home too.
Just do as mom wishes. She hates it. I started to wonder what I was even working so hard for. Since my mother-in-law had injured her leg, she needed help with moving around. Even though a caregiver comes once a week, it was too much for me, and I was reaching my limit. One day, as I was trying to help my mother-in-law out of bed, it happened. Here we go, ouch. A sharp pain ran through my back. I threw out my back.
Threw out your back?
Yeah. The doctor told me to rest for a while. What about taking care of mom? Huh? I thought he would at least ask if I was okay. But there was no sign of concern from my husband. Great, another person who needs care. Useless. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm sorry. I lay in bed and covered my face. I didn't want him to see me crying. True to his word, he really didn't do anything. I pushed myself to do the household chores.
Please, I really can't take care of your mother anymore.
After much pleading, I finally got him to agree to have a caregiver come 5 days a week. Such a waste of money, he muttered. My back was starting to feel better when I noticed his phone left on the desk. It was unlocked and the screen was still on. I glanced at it and saw it was a confirmation screen for a trip reservation. He seemed to have booked a 2-day spa trip for 2 adults. Hey, I saw it just now. Are you taking me on the trip? Maybe he does care about me after all. But I was completely wrong. A trip? Nah, why would I go anywhere with you?
What?
I'm going with a colleague from work. What were you thinking? Oh, how embarrassing. Sorry. I felt utterly miserable. 2 weeks later, he went on the trip, leaving me and his mother behind. He left early in the morning, excited. I just silently watched him go. The next day, there was a loud clattering at the entrance, and he rushed into the living room, looking frantic. Welcome back. What's the matter? You seem excited. I got my girlfriend 18 years younger pregnant. Let's get a divorce.
What?
Excuse me for interrupting. Behind him, a woman who appeared to be in her 20s showed her face.
And you are?
I'm Michelle Brown, from the same company as Thomas. Your husband has always been very kind to me. She introduced herself with a bright smile, her skin radiantly glowing. So, of course, you'll agree to this. You don't have any say in the matter. I thought about it for a moment, then said, Fine. Then I won't be coming for caregiving anymore. That's only natural. Once we're divorced, my mother-in-law and I will be complete strangers. Michelle will have to take care of her instead of me. However, my husband insisted on a completely selfish demand. That's different. I want you to continue the caregiving until the end. I'm skinny and have no muscles, I absolutely can't do it. Right. You're so frail, you'd get hurt doing caregiving. He hugged Michelle's shoulders, pulling her towards him. He didn't care when I hurt my back. I realized that there was no love left for me from him. That's fine, right? Since you're unemployed, I don't mind paying you at least minimum wage. That's impossible. What? Impossible? Are you planning to refuse? Yes, impossible. Because your mother.
Don't blame it on my mom.
My husband slammed the desk hard. It was the first time he'd ever shown violent behavior towards objects. I instinctively stepped back. Getting smart with me? I guess I need to do this to make you understand. He raised his hand above his head, about to strike me. That's when it happened.
Stop it!
My mother-in-law shouted loudly, stopping his motion.
Mom, can you walk?
There she stood, using a cane to support herself on her own feet. My husband was shocked to see my mother-in-law, who was supposed to be wheelchair-bound, standing on her own.
That's not important right now. What about this situation?
Confronted by my mother-in-law, my husband snapped back to reality. She says she won't take care of you anymore. Yeah, that's right. Because I've decided to go into a nursing home. A nursing home? He glared at me immediately.
Are you kicking Mom out of her home because she's a burden? You heartless woman. How can you say that to Yulia? I decided to go to the facility myself.
Wait, why are you defending her? Weren't you two on bad terms? We've cleared up our misunderstandings. Misunderstandings? Yes, my mother-in-law and I had misunderstood each other. I couldn't move as I wanted because of my injury, and I inadvertently took it out on Yulia. But still, she continued to care for me. My mother-in-law suddenly apologized to me. I too suffered terrible treatment from my daughter-in-law in the past. I intended not to do the same, but the more I thought about it, the less I knew how to act, and I ended up behaving terribly. I also gave up on our relationship too quickly after one cold response from you. I should have made more of an effort to reach out. After our misunderstandings were cleared up, my mother-in-law started saying thank you more frequently. Our conversations in the house increased, and she became noticeably more cheerful. I initially hated the idea of exercise, but then I thought, living negatively is just a waste of life, so I decided to commit to it. Now I can walk short distances without a cane. You wouldn't know since you've been making excuses about not being home, citing business trips and drinking outings. How does that relate to Mom deciding to go to a facility? It's great that Mom can walk a little now. My husband said, clapping his hands slowly in a somewhat mocking manner. My mother-in-law, unfazed by his facetious attitude, stated firmly, It's to set Yulia free. What are you saying, as if she's been imprisoned by force until now? Well, isn't that the case? You've dumped her on me, and you've been cheating non-stop. Cut it out with the jokes. I'm not joking. Michelle and I are serious about each other. That's right, so we're planning to get married, aren't we?
Stop it. What? How can you say that to Michelle?
That's why I decided to move into a facility. That way, even if we divorce, Yulia won't have to care for me. I didn't want to burden her anymore. When my mother-in-law first mentioned this, I said she didn't have to worry about me and there was no need to move into a facility forcibly. But once she made up her mind, her determination was firm. I've decided to move into a facility using the money from selling this house and my savings. You won't get a penny.
You sold the house?
My husband gaped, repeating her words. Yes.
It's an old house but sold for more than expected because of its good location. What? You really sold it? No way, what are we gonna do now? I plan to live here with Michelle and kick Yulia out.
My husband must have envisioned a future of happiness living in this house with his new wife. But that vision crumbled.
We can't live in this house anymore? Then where are we supposed to go?
Michelle grabbed my husband's arm and started complaining.
Thomas said we didn't have to worry about rent because we have the house, and we'd get Mom's assets eventually, so it didn't matter if I worked or not. I quit my job, you know?
You quit your job?
When did this happen?
As soon as I found out I was pregnant.
And you didn't even consult me.
What? You want a pregnant woman to work?
No, that's not what I meant.
The two of them went off on a tangent, showing no signs of returning to the original discussion. Just when I was about to intervene, my husband looked at my mother-in-law.
Why would you make such a big decision without consulting me first? I'm your son, aren't I? You should be talking to me, not her.
If he had been involved, he surely would have tried to stop it. Does he not understand that? You too.
Me?
He pointed at me suddenly, and I tilted my head.
Yes. Why didn't you stop Mom?
Yulia did try to stop me. But I was the one who wanted to go to the facility. Blaming her is completely wrong. My husband seemed frustrated by the lack of ammunition to blame me, his lips trembling. I shouldn't say this, but the way you treat Yulia is really awful. That's why I've been saying over and over that I want to free her from this house as soon as possible, especially since I found out about your affairs.
Mom, you knew? Since when?
About a month ago, I guess. I thought your behavior was strangely off, so I hired a detective agency. They delivered evidence to the house when you were at work and Yulia was out shopping. My mother-in-law had hired the detective agency after searching on the internet because she could handle a cell phone just fine. I had already seen the various pieces of evidence she had gathered beforehand. You'll eventually tell Yulia about the divorce. If I'm in the facility by then, it would free her. It was all my plan. But to go to a facility you don't even want. Oh, I never said I didn't want to go. After visiting the planned facility on a trial basis, my mother-in-law quite liked it. Being naturally sociable, she seemed excited about the community of her age group gathering there. And it's not just any facility, it's practically a luxury condo. There are nurses on duty 24 hours, the rooms are private with locks, and privacy is completely protected.
How much does a fancy nursing home like that even cost?
It's a secret.
Don't mess with me.
My husband suddenly raised his voice at his mother.
If we just kept her in charge of your care, we could have saved the extra money. What's this about a luxury nursing home? Just wasting money. This house was left to me by your late father, and I saved up the money myself. I don't need to hear it from you. You foolish son. Huh?
Being bluntly called out by his own mother, my husband looked completely taken aback. She didn't stop there. You have no house, no inheritance. What's the point in staying with Thomas now?
Michelle?
Isn't it obvious? If there's no money, there's no benefit in staying with an old guy like you.
So you were after my money?
I grew up in a single-parent home, and I learned the hard way how important money is. And after all that, this is how I'm treated?
You're such a shallow woman.
And what's wrong with being practical? This is my life. I couldn't help but feel a bit impressed by Michelle's boldness. Despite appearances, she must have gone through a lot of hardship. Her candidness about being motivated by money showed that she might actually be quite tough and smart. The argument between my husband and Michelle went on and on. But ultimately, they were just repeating the same things, leading to a completely pointless argument. How long do I have to listen to this? As I fought the urge to yawn, I tried to endure this situation. Then, my mother-in-law, with a force in her voice I had never heard before, shouted,
Enough! If you want to argue over trivial matters, do it outside. I've already decided. Whether you like it or not, I am going to the facility. That's it.
At her firmness, the two of them stopped in their tracks. I caught my breath sharply.
So, all my plans are ruined. And to lose my childhood home too. Can this get any worse?
Well, our marriage is off then. Michelle sighed to Thomas.
What about the baby? You quit your job, right? A woman alone can't raise a child.
I'll manage it by myself. Are you serious? I'm very serious.
Don't think you can just break up with me now.
Thomas seemed deeply invested in Michelle, almost as if he was determined to remarry her no matter what. Seeing her son like this, my mother-in-law staggered slightly in shock. Don't strain yourself. Please sit down. Or would you like to go back to bed? No, I'll manage until I sort out these two hopeless cases. Her eyes communicated a determination to get rid of Thomas and Michelle by any means necessary.
Michelle, don't rush into anything. Think it over again, okay?
Thomas seemed to switch to a soothing tactic. He looks like a neighborhood old man trying to feed a stray cat that's hissing at him. However, it backfired with Michelle.
Gross. Stop nagging. I said I'm not marrying you. Stop making me repeat myself. There's no point in staying with a broke old man. Getting all high and mighty just because I'm being nice.
Thomas was furious and raised his fist. He apparently intended to hit Michelle. This was definitely not okay. I instinctively grabbed Thomas's arm just as he was about to swing down.
What are you doing? Let go. She's pregnant. You absolutely cannot use violence. Shut up. Ouch!
Thomas shoved me hard, and I fell to the floor. I nearly hit my head on the corner of the dining table. Yulia, are you okay? My mother-in-law tried to stand up from her chair, but I gestured for her to stay seated and said, I'm okay. Just fell on my butt, that's all. This is the real Thomas.
Oh, no!
Michelle hugged herself and faked a scared pose. Good thing I found out before we got married. Otherwise, I'd be living in fear of violence every day.
It was just a moment of anger. I never do this normally. I swear, believe me.
Thomas wrapped Michelle's hands in his own, trying to reassure her. It looked like a scene from a drama, but in reality, it was just a 42-year-old man clinging to a 24-year-old woman. It wasn't a pleasant sight. Enough. Michelle said as she briskly shook off Thomas's hands and stepped away from him. If you keep pestering me, I have other plans.
Plans?
I'll report to the company that you've been harassing me.
Don't joke. We're officially dating. Plus, who would believe your word?
With this, everyone will believe me. Michelle then pulled out her phone from her designer purse, her nails perfectly manicured as she started tapping on it. Suddenly, a voice began playing from the phone. Let's go to a French restaurant after work. I've made reservations at a nice place.
What is this?
If things didn't work out with you, I plan to use this recording to blackmail you. I thought I'd never have to use it, but it turns out to be useful now.
You recorded our conversation?
Thomas's face turned pale rapidly. Indeed, if someone only heard this, they'd definitely think Thomas was the one pursuing Michelle. People these days are scary. The audio continued. Good job today. I'll give you a massage. How about we go out for drinks, just the two of us? You'll probably stay over tonight, right?
Stop it, stop it. This is unfair. Your voice is conveniently cut out, isn't it? You were keen on it too.
What are you talking about?
You.
It's not just this. Michelle fiddled with her phone again and then turned the screen towards Thomas. Curious, I peeked over and saw a message exchange between Thomas and Michelle. I read aloud from the top. Today was fun. I'd like to go out to eat just the two of us again, but not after work, maybe on a weekend. Michelle had not responded to this message from Thomas. Probably to avoid leaving evidence.
So, instead of replying to my messages, you started talking to me directly at work.
I thought to myself, I see. She avoided leaving evidence while still giving the joy of direct conversation, a sophisticated technique. I realized Michelle was quite the strategist.
I'll make you regret deceiving me about having money. I'll submit this to the company and tell them that's why I resigned.
Michelle said, lifting her chin triumphantly and laughing.
Just don't do that. My career, my position that I've built up to now.
I don't care. Goodbye. Michelle turned her back on Thomas and was about to step towards the door. The doorbell rang. Who could that be? My mother-in-law touched her cheek with her right hand and tilted her head. She smiled faintly in a way that only I could perceive. I'll go check. I took the initiative to go to the door and invited the visitor inside. We've been expecting you. Please, come in. Everyone's here.
Hey, who is it? We're busy right now, don't let guests in at a time like this.
Thomas yelled from the living room. As I escorted the guest back to the living room, I asked, "Is it really okay to talk like that?" I stepped aside to reveal the person behind me.
Mom?
The surprised voice belonged to Michelle.
Mom? Michelle's?
Nice to meet you, I'm Elise, Michelle's mother.
By the way, she's 42 years old. Same age as us, Thomas. 42? Then Michelle was born when you were.
When I was 18. Elise, Michelle's mother, certainly had the presence of a strong woman who had a child young and raised her single-handedly.
Why is my mom here?
Yulia was kind enough to tell me everything.
That you've been cheating and trying to steal someone's husband.
Michelle glared and stepped back.
Thanks to my mother-in-law, who did the cheating investigation, I found out the other woman was you. While you and my husband were on a trip, I contacted Elise. Michelle, you hadn't told your mom you were involved with a married man, had you? How could I ever say something like that? Are you stupid? Michelle! Damn it! If Yulia hadn't told me, I would have been deceived too. My daughter is planning to marry a married man. Really, just like your divorced father.
Elise spoke as if spitting the words at Michelle. It seems Michelle's father had vanished after his own affair.
I didn't receive child support, I had no education, so I worked multiple part-time jobs to get you through high school, and this is the result?
At Elise's words, Michelle bit her lip and looked down. You too, Thomas.
Yes!
When his name was called, Thomas straightened up like a schoolboy.
Did you enjoy dating a girl 18 years younger than you while you were still married?
And you even got her pregnant.
Oh, no, that...
Frozen like a frog under a snake's gaze, Thomas couldn't move.
I wanted to have a serious conversation with you, which is why I asked to be called here today. I came over as soon as I got the message. Thank you for visiting me. Don't joke.
Elise slammed her hand on the table, making Thomas jump. It was almost comical to see my husband, who usually works so assertively at a major company, shrink in front of a woman his own age.
You will be held responsible for this. Responsible? Child support, of course. What else would it be? Michelle says she's not marrying you, so you'll support her and your unborn child, right? No, I was actually planning to marry Michelle.
Absolutely not.
What's it gonna be?
Our living room was chaotic. Thomas insists on remarriage, Michelle adamant about not marrying, Elise demanding child support. My mother-in-law and I were completely out of the loop. It was Elise who put an end to this situation.
I'm taking Michelle back home for now. I'm truly sorry for the trouble we've caused.
The only good thing was that Elise turned out to be a sensible adult with common sense.
Come on, Michelle. We're going home. Wait, Mom. Hurry up. You're good for nothing.
Elise forcefully pulled Michelle's hand and left our house. As they left, the chaos subsided, and silence fell over the living room. We all hesitated, wondering who would speak first. Finally, it was Thomas who broke the silence. Yulia. He spoke to me awkwardly, clearly exhausted and defeated. Then, as if seeking sympathy, he said,
"Should we try again?"
"You must be joking."
"It's no joke. I probably won't be able to remarry Michelle. I'll be divorced again. You don't understand how a single man is viewed at work."
So, it wasn't about loving me, it was all for his job, for himself. Unbelievable. You think I'd agree just like that?
Don't you feel sorry for me? I might not even have a home to return to.
Absolutely not.
Real witch, aren't you?
If you're going to say that, then you're a real piece of work. Getting all high and mighty just because you think you're in the right. Fine, at least try to convince Mom. Convince her of what? To stop her from selling the house. She might listen to you right now. I'm not going to stop. My mother-in-law spoke up. All this whispering, why don't you speak up so I can hear you too?
But...
How pathetic. Yulia, do as you please from here on out. Thank you.
What are you planning to do?
I pulled a sheet of paper from the shelf and gently placed it on the table. Divorce papers. Sign them quickly. My section was already filled out. After a long pause, Thomas, seemingly resigned, signed with trembling hands. Thanks. I'll handle this. And so, my divorce from Thomas was finalized. Even after the divorce, I stayed with my mother-in-law, caring for her until she moved into the facility. Yulia, thank you so much for everything. My mother-in-law said as if it were a farewell for this life. Please don't say such sad things. I plan to visit you at the facility. Don't refuse to see me, okay? Oh, what should I do? My mother-in-law and I laughed over a warm cup of coffee. By that time, her health had improved significantly. She could walk around the house freely with the aid of a cane. As for my ex-husband Thomas, though he managed to avoid having his affair exposed at work thanks to Michelle's evidence, he ended up living with Michelle and Elise. With no home to return to, that was his only option. But when that child turns 18, Thomas will be 60. That's retirement age. From now on, Thomas would have to keep working for his new family. Meanwhile, I managed to get rehired. The cosmetics company I had left offered me a position, and I accepted without hesitation. A former colleague had told my old boss that I was looking for work because I had divorced Thomas. I was grateful to be working in a familiar environment again. Busy but fulfilled, I felt truly part of society again. I'm going to see her tomorrow, maybe I'll buy a cake on my way home. She likes the ones from that shop. Today is Friday. I hurried home with a gift for my mother-in-law. I wonder if she will be pleased. From now on, I decided to enjoy life fully while also making time to visit my mother-in-law.